Viktor Shklovsky promotes mechanical formalism under the umbrella of Russian formalism. His essay, Art as a Technique, is a seminal work in Russian formalism. It is largely about the function of art and poetic language in literature. In his essay, Shklovsky attacks Russian symbolism by analyzing the statement of Russian symbolist Alexander Potonbainia that art means to think in images. Slowsky argues that art forms like music and architecture do not have images. He says that art is rather a technique that helps recover the sensation of life. Perception becomes habitual in life, which leads to an automatic or mechanical life. Humans develop algebraization, which is explained as an automation of perception. Habitualization devours works, clothes, furniture, one's wife, and the fear of war. This tendency, he argues, creates the economy of perceptive effort. Theory of defamiliarization. Slowsky coined this term in his essay, Art as a Technique. He explains that it is an artistic technique to distinguish poetic from practical language on the basis of former's perceptibility. The art, the technique of art is to make objects unfamiliar, make the forms difficult, to increase the difficulty and length of perception. Art is a way of experiencing the artfulness of an object. The object is not important. Slowsky. He argues that familiar objects are not significant and art removes objects from the automatism of perception so that one has to spend more time to understand them. Poetic language. In the second part of the essay, Slowsky talks about how poetic language is a defamiliarized language. The language of poetry and the practical language have very different functions. Practical language is used for communication purposes, whereas the language of poetry has no such practical purpose. Its objective is to defamiliarize and lengthen the time and effort in perception. Poetic language is roughened and difficult, and it removes automatism of perception. He says that in poetry, language deviates from syntax and phonetic structures. The physical sound of words, when used in everyday language, is defamiliarized and becomes prominent. This formal prominence is the basis of poetry. Slowsky states poetic speech is form speech because defamiliarization is found almost everywhere form is found. He anticipates a futuristic concept of trans-sense language, where language contains in itself a sense of unintelligibility. Slowsky categorizes folklore, nursery rhymes, and religious rituals in the group of trans-sense language. He argues that in these kinds of work, sound is more important than sense. Slowsky also extends the use of defamiliarizations to the study of fiction. He says that in fiction, the story, fabula, and the plot usage are different. While the story is a linear progression of events, a plot may unfold in any manner as chosen by the author. Some novelists defamiliarize the art of storytelling with the help of narrative devices. Slowsky concludes the essay with a typical non romantic statement. He argues that sentiments cannot be the mainstay of art. Art is trans emotional and unsympathetic. He reminds that even emotions in a work of art are the products of a different point of view, and in this, the point of view also becomes a technique.